Ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. I said I'm going to the moon. I'll be back in a couple of days. Well, you be careful. You know I don't want nothing to happen to you, baby.
All right, everybody. The late Robin Harris telling all of you to be careful. To be careful. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little bit of time. What I'm going to do is I have to go back to my music. So y'all give me a second to play my music for a moment. Now, I didn't have it set to the music, so we're just going to play an instrumental on YouTube. So 1 second, everybody, so that we can play our instrumental on YouTube. We're going to go to the studio, and then we're going to go to the studio because we got a little bit of a mix we have to do. So we're going to do, what's the name of we're going to be doing? We're going to do some light music. Oh, that says slight. Well, we're going to do some light music. Oh, that's right, because it's on my site, so we can't do copy. And let's just go to YouTube. Let's get rid of the studio. Got to get rid of the studio thing. I shouldn't have did studio because studio is our problem, y'all. All right, just want you all to know that this is going to be not one of those informational videos. This is going to be one of those personal videos. So if you don't want to hear the personal stuff, take it on, because I ain't got time for you. We started off with the Robin Harris where he was talking about, now you be careful. I wouldn't want nothing to happen to my Robin. Okay. The reason why we're playing that is because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be worried about me. Okay. And what I want you all to do is I want all of you who think you need to worry about me to stop worrying. What do you mean stop worrying? Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I don't need you to worry about me because I's all right. Okay, we're going to play this one because this is the romantic stuff. Now, I got to turn the volume down because I turned it up a moment ago. No, I don't. So we're going to let that play in the background. Now, we're going to they probably won't let this video stay up too long because this is the music that everybody's into, and you know they don't want you playing that music. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there is a situation that I need all of you to understand. So what I'm going to do is we're going to show you what's going on. Can't show you that. That ain't going on. Can't show you that. That's an email between me and a colleague. Oh, I'm going to go back and watch that. I'm going to go look at the... Doesn't matter. You can go back and look at it all you want. What I'm going to do is... What is this? No, we're going to stop you. I said we're going to stop you. It don't want to stop, y'all. Okay, watch this. We open up that, and then we take care of it that way, since you don't want to stop. R-Y-N-O-L-D-S. Reynolds versus U.S. in 2012. This case right here. Mr. Billy Joe Reynolds was accused of failing to go and let people know where he was. So the Supreme Court gave its opinion. Now, we don't care about that one. It's this one we care about. Okay? And this was certiorari, where Reynolds had an attorney. The attorney went to the Supreme Court, and Mr. Reynolds won. The only problem is Mr. Reynolds didn't pay attention. So let's deal with the opinion by Justice Breyer. She gave the opinion on Scalia, the late Scalia, who ain't here and doesn't need to be here because he's a piece of work. He was a piece of work. He ain't a piece of work anywhere. This is the Offender Registration Notification Act that was enacted. The Supreme Court, let me show you. It says, the law says that the Attorney General shall have the authority to specify the application of the requirements. Now, this is where they're coming at me with. Okay, let me show you something. We're looking for this word. We're looking for the word validly. Oh no, I did the wrong word. No. I did the wrong word. Sorry, I did the right word. I just did it in the wrong spot. I was supposed to do the search in the real search. Okay, and we're gonna go there. Says the question before us is whether or not the Act requires pre-Act offenders to register before the Attorney General validly specifies that the Act's registration provisions apply to them. We believe it does not. Now, this is the point right here. The reason why they said they believe it did not is because he did not follow the Administrative Procedures Act. Now, what I need you all to understand, I knew they were going to come back with this. No, let's go back. We got to go back to the other ballotly. We need to do number 2. So let's go to number 2. That was 1. Let's go to number, well, that was 2. Okay. The court held that the Act does not require the offenders to register before the Attorney General validly specifies that the Act does apply to them. Okay. Accordingly, the court reversed the Court of Appeals determination that, in effect, held to the contrary. Ladies and gentlemen, when they made this statement right here, when they said that it did not apply to them because it was invalid, the reason why they said it was invalid because he failed to follow the APA. Let's do the APA so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Now you'll see how this, look, the reason why we're talking about this is because I asked them to leave me alone. I ain't bothered nobody, minding my own business, have spent the last pretty much all my life trying to help people. But I've made sure the last 22 years of my life has been spent at sacrifice, where I haven't acquired anything for myself, that I've been punishing my own self. Don't need anybody else to punish me. I've been doing it myself. Don't need nobody else to penalize me. I've been doing it myself. I finally got to the point where I said no more. Ladies and gentlemen, that pop-up that you just saw is Moby, not Moby, malware bytes. And I do have to pump up malware bytes. Why? This is the premium version, and I was able to get the premium version that was cracked. Well, I technically didn't get it cracked. I found the password somebody had, and it worked for me. And so it has been blocking all of these attempts to get into my system because we see new and improved. I'm not getting that, but you see, it is the premium one, and it takes care of all of this. It does the exploit protection, web protection, all that. I need that. If you can get it, because it works. I'm not getting anything from them, but I'm letting you know that out of all the other softwares I've had, that one seriously blocks junk. And I appreciate that. All right, let me go ahead and continue. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna, let me turn the music off because the music is, even though the music is there and I need the music in the background, I don't need it right now. So I apologize even to myself because y'all know. See, I can't turn it down any less than that. And it's in my ears, so we're gonna let that go. Ladies and gentlemen, and the reason why I'm showing you this, let's talk about this first and then we'll talk about everything else later. It says, he conceded that the Attorney General had already in February 2007 promulgated an interim rule specifying that the Act's requirements were applicable to pre-act offenders, but he claimed that the interim rule was invalid because it violated both the Constitution's non-delegation doctrine and the Administrative Procedures Act requirement for good cause for promulgating a rule without notice and comment. The Attorney General, as the Attorney General had done. See, the Attorney General had to follow the Administrative Procedures Act because the Congress delegated to him the ability of deciding who it applied to and who it didn't apply to. So they did an administrative delegation. They delegated responsibility for applying a legal requirement to an administrative agency, the Attorney General's Department of Justice. The Attorney General, in his administrative capacity, had to follow the Administrative Procedures Act. This is where it talks about non-delegatory doctrine. The Supreme Court said that we're not going to deal with the non-delegation of authority doctrine, where the United States Congress can then delegate its authority to the executive branch. Okay, they said they're not going to handle that question. Mr. Billy Ray or Billy Joe Reynolds his attorney was pretty good. He brought up the right arguments, but the Supreme Court said, we're not going to hear that argument. It's ever since 1925, they can pick and choose. They can cherry pick an appeal or a certiorari. Pay attention. Title V is the Administrative Procedures Act. Section 553B3B and then D3 says the interim rule is invalid because he did not follow these procedures here. And he says because it was invalid, the law must treat him like a pre-act offender who traveled interstate in violation of the Act's registration requirement before the Attorney General specified their applicability. Actually, let me show you what happened with the decision by the Supreme Court. You all need to pay attention because this is so important. I don't want to do this. I promise you, I don't want to do this, but they're asking me because I told them to leave me alone. The question before us is whether the Act applies until the Attorney General validly specifies that it does. We believe it does not. They have ruled, well, let's prove to you that that was their ruling, because I can say everything all day long. Give me 1 second. I got to go up past this part right here. 1 second. For this reason, we conclude that the Act's registration requirements do not apply to pre-act offenders until the Attorney General so specifies. Now they say whether or not the interim rule is valid, sets forth a valid specification, consequently matters in the case before us. So they said it did not. It was not valid. They said that it did not validly so specify. What he did is, what you guys must know, whenever they come up with a law, a rule, they must give what's known as, under the Administrative Procedures Act, a public commenting section, public commenting period. In other words, the public has a right to comment as to whether or not they're going to accept a law, a provision of law. The Attorney General said, nope, not going to have the public commenting session. Congress has said this is an emergency. We got to have this done in an emergency. And then he waited over 200 days before he came up with the rule. Well, the Supreme Court said 200 days, that's not an emergency. That's almost a full year that you waited. If it was an emergency, then you would have done it speedily. And then he stated the reason why it was an emergency. He really repeated everything that Congress had already said. So the Supreme Court said, hey, buddy, you're just repeating the same thing that Congress said. That's not good enough. That's not a good enough reason. So after this case, after Reynolds brought forth the argument, they decided to do the public hearing. Well, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. They did the public hearing afterwards. Ladies and gentlemen, it's too late. You see, he didn't go back and do it from the beginning. But wait a minute, hold on. They said that the act did not apply to Mr. Reynolds because the Attorney General hadn't validly specified according to the Administrative Procedures Act. So Mr. Billy Joe case was sent back and he was retried, and then the Attorney General then redid it by having the public hearing, and then they applied it to him. Okay. Nobody caught it. I did. I caught it right away. It made every bit of sense to me. When they applied it to him the first time, it didn't apply. The Supreme Court said it. When they applied it to him the second time, it did not apply. He didn't go back in and argue. What do you mean it didn't apply? Well, see, the first time they applied it, it was invalid. It was unconstitutional because they didn't follow the Administrative Procedures Act. So it also violated the Administrative Procedures Act. Wait a minute. What are you saying? I'm saying double jeopardy. They wrongfully applied it to him the first time. And then what did they do? Applied the very same provisions as was applied the first time, the second time. But the second time they applied it, they violated the Administrative Procedures Act again. Why? Because the Attorney General was supposed to go from the beginning to the end, not from the middle to the end. You see, I was just explaining this to someone. If you're playing a game of hopscotch and you miss the square that you're supposed to land on, you can't get to the end of the hopscotch game and go, what do you mean I missed that square? Hold on a second. One, two, three. Okay. Ding. Okay, I hit the square. Now I still win. You can't do that, people. It doesn't work like that. You can't be in a race, a 500-meter dash. You cannot be in a race and get to the end of the race and they say, wait a minute, honey, you missed 3 hurdles. What you mean I missed 3 hurdles? Hold on a minute. One, okay, two, okay, three. All right, I win. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there are no do-overs. He doesn't get to go and just go back and complete what he missed. It's not that type of test. The Administrative Procedures Act is a strict act. Certain things must take place. It has to go from one to the second to the third to the fourth. It's called a procedure. He failed to follow procedure. So he violated the due process rights of the individuals he was applying that to. Originally, when he applied it, I know, it's not making sense to none of you, but I promise you it makes sense to those who know law. Originally, when he applied it, the Supreme Court said it was invalid because he didn't follow procedure. Pay attention. Then he does it again the second time, and nobody is saying that it's valid. They're only implying on a presumption that it's valid because he did it again. So it's only a presumption. Nobody is raising the point that it is invalid because he didn't follow the Administrative Procedures Act. Nobody is raising the point that it constitutes double jeopardy. What do you mean double jeopardy? Because the act was applied to individuals when it was invalid. That means it was invalidly applied. Then the very same act was applied to them a second time. That's double jeopardy, people. You cannot be twice put in jeopardy. But they say that that's not jeopardy. They're only requiring that you go down and do this and do that. No, it is jeopardy because Mr. Reynolds was placed in jail because he did not do what he wasn't required to do. So now he's twice being placed in jeopardy. Now it's time for us to talk. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of people out there who would judge me wrong, judge me left, judge me right, and I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. I don't care about the people who would judge me. I care about the people who know me, the people I love, the people I care about. I care about them. But do I care about their opinions? Well, of course, everybody cares about the next person's opinion, but I don't. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I don't care about people's opinion because I've done too much to help people. Again, everybody and their grandmama knows that my videos, and I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, trust me. If you knew me, if you really knew me, you would realize that I am not putting myself on a pedestal. Yeah, I talk about all that. I'm great and I know this and I know that and that. I know everything and that's all that I know. That's all talk. You're trying to say you humble? No, I am not humble. If I was humble, I would never say it because a humble person could never admit that they're humble. Why? Because that's the exact opposite of humility. Going out there and shouting and saying that you're humble. But I tell you one thing, I don't want to be first. I don't need to be last. I don't need to be third. I'll tell you another thing. I've always been first. I've always been third. I've never been last. You see, if you try so hard to be something, you will never be that. You know what I'm trying to be? I'm trying to be the friend of my God, the God that I serve. Now that may sound strange to some of you, and some of you may not like Jehovah's Witnesses. That's too bad. Because our existence doesn't depend on whether or not you like us. We don't need your approval to exist. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't exist because you've willed me into existence. Well, technically, let's correct that. The videos exist because you've willed them into existence, because somebody had to do it. The information that was just put out about how you guys can write off your taxes doing the right way, some of you are going to get creative, and then some of the people who understand what I was talking about, oh, they're going to take off and they're going to make a business out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you find the person who knows what they're doing about what I just spoke about, and they want to take 40%, let them have 40%, because you'll make it back. Let them have the 40%. Let them have the 30%. If they want to take 50, 60, 70%, don't go with that, because that means that they're too greedy. That means that they're too greedy. Oh, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I did a video about Amazon, about how they got their refund, and I said, go get yours, shorty. That shorty thing, I added that at the end after I did the video, and after I put it up, I went back and saw that I had spoke something into the computer, and it was like SHOT, like shot, and I didn't say anything about shot, so I just added the R and the Y, shorty. Okay, so go get yours, shorty, because it made sense that a lot of people on the dirty south and on the east call people shorty, and I've met some people on the west coast who call people shorty. So go get yours, shorty. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's the video you need to watch. If you haven't watched any of my videos, that's the one you need to go watch. So let's finish talking, shall we? I told them in 2012, I said, if you people don't leave me alone, then I will challenge that stupid act, and I will do it in the only way it should have been done the first time. I said, if I challenge it, it will be deemed unconstitutional because I will make it only about that. And I won't do like Reynolds. I won't give the Supreme Court the option of cherry picking my appeal. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why they get to cherry pick your appeals, the reason why they get to cherry pick your documents is because you are not addressing it correctly. You have to highlight that you have the right to petition the court for redress of grievance, and that if you petition the court for redress of grievance, the word redress means to correct the wrongs. So if you are petitioning for correcting the wrongs, that means that if you have the right to redress, you have the right to anticipate and expect redress, which means they have a duty and an obligation to provide redress. That's what you have going for you. Many of you don't know this. Many of you are not aware of this. So when you petition the court for redress, you must understand that the court has an obligation to render redress. It's not a choice. So you must make each one of your appeal points redress points. Now, did you hear what I'm saying? No, you don't hear me though. You must make each one a point of redress. You have to explain that you have the right to redress. See, the court will say you have the right to petition for redress. Yes, but you also have the right to anticipate that the court will do its duty in correcting the wrong, because that's why it was placed in power through delegation of authority, was to correct the wrongs. The Constitution has never been amended. Ladies and gentlemen, and like I said, I hate doing this because 750,000 people will be affected by this. This one case affects 750,000 people. That's why them coming after me, I'm not fighting them. I'll tell you about it in a minute, but I'm not fighting them. No, because I need the appeal. Puerto Rico says that there's a warrant out, but they haven't brought up the warrant the whole time. It's true, the warrants in Puerto Rico are not visible in the United States. I know that, but they introduced the warrant in PR without telling me. And then my appeal that was sitting for 3 years, they used that as an excuse for ignoring my appeal. So, okay, guess what? Now I'll have 2 appeals going at the same time on both levels on the very same issues. I told them to leave me alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't been running from anybody. Everybody knows where I am. I haven't been hiding. Here I am going into court, handling cases for people. They knew where I was. No, they were just plotting and mapping out their time. What they didn't know is that, and this is where we get to be personal. In 2001, I was chosen by my God to be his chosen one. Yes, I'm saying it. A lot of other people won't tell you this, but Paul said it. Paul told you that he was chosen. He talked about what happened to him on the road when he was headed to Damascus. But remember, Paul had just sat up there and watched Stephen being stoned to death, approving of it. And then he's dragging women and children and men to be placed in jail. Paul oversaw the death of quite a few people, oversaw the beatings and stonings of quite a few people. And you know what? While he is on his way to do even more wrong, he is chosen. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of people hoped to be chosen. See, there are many called, but only few chosen. So everybody wants to be chosen. Ladies and gentlemen, I never wanted to be chosen. Why? Because it wasn't for me. If you have to be chosen, then you don't have a choice. Somebody chooses you. So why would you expect something that's not yours to expect? But why me? Because the only thing I can say is because I care about everybody. Without exception, even the people who hate me, I still care about those idiots. But you just called them an idiot. No, I didn't say I loved it them. I said I care about them. I care about everybody's well-being, including that person who may have. And ladies and gentlemen, let me explain. There was a kid, and he was a kid. He was probably 19, 20 years old, and he and a friend went into someone's house because they owed back rent. And so the landlord sent these two guys over to try to get his money. Well, he didn't know the two guys were going to go into the house with guns. They pistol whipped the grandmother and shot and killed her. They killed the mother, they killed the father. They killed one of the brothers. And they went after the third brother. The only problem is 9-year-old kid, everyone. Their bullets run out of gun. I mean, their bullets run out of guns. Their guns run out of bullets. So they pistol whipped him. 9-year-old kid, a kid. They took him to a bridge and they threw him over the bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, they would have gotten away with this. They would have gotten away. The only problem is the rocks were too soft. And there was a house with a light on that the person answered the door when the kid got to the door. And then they called the police. They would have gotten away with it if they had not had soft rocks. The light wouldn't have been on. The person wouldn't have answered the door. They wouldn't have called the police, and he wouldn't have remembered the idiots who did it to him. So this idiot ends up in the same jail as I, in a cell next to me. But the problem is he's taunting me, yelling out my name 24 hours a day because I'm the gringo. I'm the English-speaking person. I'm the one that everybody else is coming to for help with their legal stuff, and I won't help him. It's not that I wouldn't help him. He assumed I wouldn't help him. He knew I knew about what he had done, but see, I have to look at things as if I'm an attorney, a lawyer. I cannot look at the crime that the person I'm helping committed. That was the number one rule. If I'm going to help one person, I have to help all of them, no matter what they have done. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a case where one of the people, now I'll finish telling you about this idiot, because he was an idiot. God, he was an idiot. He wanted sympathy, and I felt sorry for him. No, I didn't help him because he never asked, and I ended up being moved, but he was still an idiot, but I still felt sorry for him after all that he had done. Why? Because I couldn't judge him by what he had done, because look at the things I've done in my life. Now, not all of it was bad, but I still did things that were wrong. I told all of you, I'm the one who sat up there and staged a robbery of $2.1 million worth of merchandise. We're going on almost 30 years ago. Statute of limitations has been up for some time. That's why I don't mind mentioning it. $2.1 million. I got nothing from it other than the satisfaction that I planned it and it worked. Everybody else got rich, but I didn't. And I didn't care. Now, I did have a bunch of guns being pointed at me, about 50. Get out of here. I don't want to speak to y'all. Okay, about 50 guns being pointed at me. 50. Why? Ladies and gentlemen, because we were just asking for our share of the funds. And they said, we tried to tell you guys you weren't getting anything and you're still coming. He says, look, this will end only one way. I said, hey, why don't you just let me and my boys go? I don't care about the money. I said, I told you from the very beginning, no guns, and you guys bring guns. I don't care about the money. I could care less. Okay, so just let me and my boys go. You guys can keep the money. And they allowed us to leave. To this day, one of the guys who was with me died in a motorcycle accident. So he died a couple of days after he was in the accident. But the other one is still mad at me. And he was my best friend at the time. And he's still mad at me for that because he thought I left him in the middle of the street to be killed. He didn't know I was over there negotiating for his life. I pulled the main people off to the side because I started seeing people standing behind fences and doors and windows and started seeing people peeping out of windows, so I knew something was up. So I went away from them and I went to talk to them and ask what's going on. I told you guys no guns. I didn't see anybody pull out a gun. I just knew people were standing behind fences and gates and I knew they weren't standing over there for their health. He says, man, I tried to tell you guys to go. I said, man, you didn't say it. You hinted it. But you didn't say it, so how are we supposed to read your mind? So I told him, just let me and my boys go, and you guys can have the money. He went over and talked with them, and they said okay, and we drove away. Like I said, I've done wrong. I've been in situations where I should have died. People say, well, the fact that you got muscular dystrophy and you're suffering now, that's for all the things you did wrong. No, muscular dystrophy was something I was born with. So this is not as a consequence of my actions. And by the way, for those who think that, and it's okay, some people will think that, please understand that the people who have the same form of muscular dystrophy that I have are either dead, in a wheelchair, on a respirator, or laid up in bed. I'm not none of those. So it's not the point. What is the point then? The point is, in 2001, the God that I serve decided to choose me to be his servant. And he made me aware because I asked him. I said, please help me to know what's about to happen before it happens because he knows, I promise you with all of my heart, he knows I hate surprises. And so he did. He allowed me to understand, and that's what I call it, an understanding. Is I didn't know it a minute ago, but I know it now. Some of you are going to pick up on this in a second. And I call it an understanding. I didn't know it 5 seconds ago, but man, I know it now, and it's like I've known it all my life. Well, 2001, I told all of my friends, all of my close friends, everything that was going on, his choosing, everything that happened that night, how it happened, and how when he says he pours out his spirit upon his servant, there ain't no stupid thing as catching nobody's stupid Holy Ghost. I don't know what's wrong with these people. There's nothing in the scripture that says that any human is fast enough to catch his spirit. Oh, I caught the Holy Ghost. Where'd you catch it at? How'd you catch it? Did you have a catcher's mitt in your hand? Did you have a hook and a line? How did you catch something that's invisible? If you go back to the book of Joel, the 2nd chapter, go to Acts, the 2nd chapter, he says, I will pour out my spirit, and your men servants and your women servant will prophesy. He said he will pour out his spirit. But you Jehovah's Witnesses believe only 144,000. No, see, those are the stupid people. Look, stupid people. Yes, I'm not talking to those of you who are smart and intelligent, who know how to listen. I'm talking to the stupid people right now because they need somebody to talk to them. Because they can't exist without having some attention. So I'm going to give them the attention right now. It is not Jehovah's Witnesses who believe that only 144,000 will go to so-called heaven, that only 144,000 are chosen. Let me prove it to you. And I'm not even going to use the scriptures. And I know I said I would never do that, but I'm not going to use the scripture. I'm going to use the old spiritual, that old parable song that everybody and their grandmama know. When the saints, meaning the chosen ones, the holy ones that's spoken of in the book of Revelation, go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in, the chosen ones, people. Oh, how I hope to be in that number, a selective group, when the saints go marching in. They've always known that it was a selective group, a selective number. You keep hearing people, there are many called, but only few chosen. Ladies and gentlemen, do you understand? It says only few chosen. Get out of here. Okay. It says there are many called, but only few chosen. They always knew that it was a selective number. I don't get it. But you Jehovah's Witnesses, it is not Jehovah's Witnesses who believe that. It has always been there. It's just we have all of these churches teaching people that all good people go to heaven like all dogs go to heaven. They teach that stupid stuff because they know it's, oh, that tickles. They know that it will tickle your ear because that's what you want to hear. And that's what you love to hear. You love to hear people telling you something that you can agree with. Ladies and gentlemen, if it was the truth, then it wouldn't sound so great all the time. You would not agree with it all the time. People are agreeing with it because that's all they have. Because that's people. They need their ears to be tickled. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. I have never tickled your ear. I've shown you the facts. I've shown you the truth because that's the only thing I have to show you. That's the only thing I have to show you is the facts. Nothing else. Like I told the idiot who is the judge, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Like I told that Scarlet Hoe, because that's how I feel about her. I don't hate her, but I know she's a hoe. And I don't wish nothing bad on her, but I don't wish her no good at all. Because she deserves everything she's got coming. I told her, excuse me, but isn't the jury supposed to make a determination based on the facts and the truth and the law? Well, I'm the one to determine the law. I know. I hear judges say that, but isn't the jury required to make their determination based on the facts and the law? And you said you're the only one to determine the law? So are you saying that ignorance of law is an excusable offense? Huh? Well, if you're the only one who can determine the law, that means that I must have as an excuse that I don't know the law. And she moved on to something else. Well, they can do this too, but I'm told I have to, say that I'm the only one who can know the law. And she did say that, ladies and gentlemen. She said that it is written and instructed that she's the only one, and she has to tell the jury that she is there to interpret the law. So I said, are you saying the jury doesn't have the right to interpret the law? That there are not 9 fundamental principles of statutory interpretation that only you can interpret the law? Says, no, we are admonished to tell that to the jury. Oh, so you are told to tell that to the jury, but that's not the actual facts. And she admitted that it wasn't actually a fact, that they just tell that to the jury. And I said, I object. She says, what for? I said, because if the jury doesn't have the right to determine the law, which the law says they must do, then that means that they're not an impartial jury. Well, that's just the instructions I give them. Exactly. So if you get to give them those instructions, wherefore? She says, well, you and the prosecutor will get the opportunity to instruct the jury as well. Okay. Now that was on Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you I sent all of those subpoenas out. Let me explain to you what goes on with me so all of you can get me. Because a lot of people don't understand me. They think they understand me, but they don't. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you guys about the subpoena and me sending it to Rand Paul and all that. I told you guys about that on purpose. Why? Because these ignorant watch my videos. They were actually planning on playing my videos before the jury. They don't even understand that don't worry about it. There won't be any testimony in the trial or anything like that. You'll see in a second. They don't even understand that the moment they played one video, that would give me the right to take the entire video and play it in context. See, they want to play the videos to be able to tell you that I was telling everybody where I lived. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention so that you get it. I haven't lived in a single house since I lived in Puerto Rico. See, Puerto Rico was my home. That was my home. I paid the rent there. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not paid rent this whole time. Now, I have paid my rent by assisting the person who was allowing me to stay, and she's been very gracious. Okay? She's been allowing me to, that thing, house sit. That's exactly what I've been doing, everyone. Right now, I'm house sitting right now. The owners are away. They are in a different city taking care of some business, and they're allowing me to house sit. Well, people will say, well, that's moving. No, it's not moving. I don't live here. I don't pay any bills here. I received mail. UPS dropped off some mail just this morning. And I've used her printer, and so even though I've only printed about 60 pages, it says the ink toner is low. So in a moment, I will be ordering some more ink toner for this printer so that she will have a full ink toner cartridge for her printer. She doesn't print that much, and I think it's been about a year since she's had to replace the ink toner. But she will have ink toner for her printer. That's my contribution. I noticed that they had a toilet seat in the guest bathroom, and the seat didn't match the porcelain. The seat was the off-white. What was it? What's that? It's Navajo. So it was the Navajo color. And so I went today, drew Lyft, took the Lyft mobile, and went and got her a toilet seat to fit on her toilet that matches. And then I noticed the shower was leaking, the shower head, so I went and got them a new shower head. Okay, and I got a couple other things for the house, about $80. They didn't ask me for that, but that's my saying, I appreciate you letting me stay at your place and not being worried about me taking anything or going and rifling through your stuff. You see, they've come to know me that I either stay in the kitchen, in the bedroom, or the bathroom. Those are the only three places in the house I go. I don't touch the living room. I don't touch none of their stuff. I don't go through none of their doors because it's not mine. This is not my place. They know that they don't have to worry about me going through their private stuff or taking any of their valuables. It's not because they know I'm a Jehovah's Witness. It's because they have gotten to know me and to know that they don't have to worry about me messing with anything that doesn't belong to me. You know, the first thing I tell myself when I walk past their room and something's out of place and I think I should go and move this or move that or correct this or repair that, I say, that's not mine. Leave it alone. I say that to myself in my head because that lets me know that there are boundaries and I stay within my boundaries. A lot of people can't say that. A lot of people are nosy. A lot of people want to be in other people's business. Ladies and gentlemen, your business is yours. You'll see it even at SATCOM. People who can't make it to one of the meetings for SATCOM, all they have to do is tell us that they can't make it. They don't have to tell us the reason why. You should see how they be wanting to tell us why they can't make it. And I say simply, that's not our business. The simple fact that you can't make it, the rule is all you have to do is give us notice. You give us notice, fine. You give us notice again, fine. But if it happens one meeting after the other meeting after the other meeting, then yes, we're going to have to ask because now you're taking advantage. But we have a it's not our business policy. Your business is not our business. I wrote this thing called the MYOB Society, okay? The Mind Your Own Business Society. And literally on the card that I put together for it, it was our business is not your business, okay? Why? Because it's the Mind Your Own Business Society. And I'm the president and owner, and I'm aggressively seeking new members. That was what the card said, because that's how I live my life. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 2001, the understanding was that something was about to happen, and when it happens, the world will never be the same. So I told my friends, I said, look, guys, I don't know what it is. I said, but something is about to happen, and when it happens, the world will never be the same. I also know that 60, I believe I don't know, I don't remember the exact days. I believe it was 66 days from that day or 60 days from that day that I was telling them that. I said, something else is about to happen. I said, but when this happens, this will mark the beginning. And so 66 days from that day or 60 days from that day, the Israelis shot down, not shot down, went to the airfield of the Palestinians and blew up all of their helicopters that they used to patrol the Golan Heights or whatever that place is called. Ladies and gentlemen, the world did nothing about it. Yasser Arafat had all of his helicopters blown up by the Israelis, and nobody said anything or did anything about it. They ignored it. You all don't understand how important that was when they did that. Sorry, these things just keep on popping up. The reason why that was so important, everybody, the reason why it was so important, them blowing up those helicopters, because they were taking away the Palestinians' ability of patrolling and controlling their own nation. They were showing that they were an occupied nation and that there was no help for them. Bothered me greatly because I understood the impact of that. And then you notice shortly after that, Yasser Arafat, all of a sudden, dead. And then Ariel Sharon, all of a sudden, he has a massive stroke and remains hospitalized for so many years, and then he died. They were getting rid of the two idiots who were causing the most problems between them with the Middle East peace issue. Got rid of both of them. Yasser Arafat first, then Sharon. Go back, look at the history, people, follow it. They got rid of both of them. When Yasser Arafat died, next thing you know, Ariel Sharon had a stroke. Go back and pay attention. And if you thought that stroke was out of the blue, then you got problems. You're not paying attention. And that's the problem. You must pay attention to everything that's going on. It ain't right. Something ain't right. And sorry, had to open the door because I came into the house with the key and the key is not on my keychain. So I believe I put it back in my jacket. And so I have to make sure because I don't want to leave a key in the door, even though the driveway is so long that ain't nobody walking up that driveway to this door and finding no key unless they are coming here for a reason. But it's in my coat pocket right here, and so that's the issue. All right, with that being said, let's get back to the conversation, everybody. The situation was the event that would take place that would change the world, and somebody tell me I'm wrong, was 9/11. Happened the exact same year, out of the blue. All of a sudden, planes are being thrown into buildings. I told someone earlier today, I said, that would normally not have bothered me because it was no big deal. You know, the planes flew into the buildings and people died, no big deal. What would have bothered me, ladies and gentlemen, is the number of people who died and the way they died and the way they burned and the way the people were jumping out of the buildings. that would have bothered me greatly. And it did bother me greatly. Even my voice right now has changed because I can't stand death. I hate death. Death bothers me to an extreme. One of the reasons I didn't go to my own mother's funeral is because I can't handle death. My own family doesn't know it, but to them, it was, I should have been there. And to them, they don't understand how painful that would have been for me and how it would have taken me too long to get over it, which means that I would not have been able to help as many people as I could. Give me a second, everyone. I'll be right back, and then I'll finish explaining to you everything that's going on so that you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, uno momento, everyone. Okay, so there you go. 9/11 happens, and then all of my friends are telling me, you said something like this was going to happen. I said, but this is only the beginning. And I said, there is so much more coming our way. Ladies and gentlemen, I told my best friend at the time, he was the neighbor of my best friend who passed away 30 years ago. I told Mr. Torrey, I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to leave. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, all I know is I'm going to end up on the East Coast. I said, I don't want to go. I told him this in 2001. I said, the thing is, I'm going to end up on the East Coast and I'm going to have a farm. I said, I don't even own any land. How am I going to have a farm? And so I'm telling this and I'm really struggling not to leave to go to the East Coast. But then everything goes wrong. And so I just finally say, okay, I mean, my car engine just completely gone. And I didn't even know the engine was gone. I just know that the car, it turns out the valves, two of the valves gone. And so the car didn't have any um, pressure. And so it drove like a piece of junk. But that took some time. And so I told him, I said, okay, I finally give because everything was going wrong. I couldn't make a buck to pay my rent. And so it just got to the point where I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I gave the apartment to my friend, but the rent was paid for 6 months. When I say I couldn't pay my rent, I had enough to take care of myself, but I didn't have any more money coming in. So I took the money I had, paid my rent for 6 months, and I left them the apartment. Left them the cars, gave my other car to my sister, and packed 3 suitcases, got on a Greyhound bus. But I said, because Jehovah is the one who told me I had to go to the East Coast. So I did like Jonah. If I'm going to go to the East Coast, then I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go all the way around and out. So I took the Greyhound bus, and instead of going across the country to the East Coast, I went all the way up to Washington, and then I was going to go all the way over across the top of the country. Well, the bus I got on, the first bus, the transmission, we were only 2 hours out of Los Angeles, and the transmission exploded on the highway. And I'm not joking, ladies and gentlemen. You can go back and ask Greyhound, check their schedule for, it was 2004, the end of 2004. Their transmission on their bus exploded on the highway. Literally, you could hear it and white smoke everywhere. Transmission fluid hitting the hot engine. Okay, so that bus pulled over to the side. They bring another bus 2 hours later. And next thing you know, we're on the highway. We go about an hour, and next thing you know, that transmission explodes on the highway. 2 buses in a row. I do not kid you on this. Ladies and gentlemen, I used to take Greyhound all the time because I like the experience. It's like going to Walmart on wheels. And Greyhound was my way of travel. Enjoyed it. And all the times I've taken Greyhound, not once has a transmission exploded on the highway. But 2 transmissions in one day? And then the third bus, we're on the third bus, and all of a sudden it starts having transmission problems. And I finally get up on the bus, just like Jonah did with the people, and told them it's my fault. I'm supposed to be headed to the East Coast, and I said this to everybody. Supposed to be headed to the East Coast. The God that I serve told me I need to go to the East Coast, and I'm going out of the way all the way up to Washington. And I said, so when we get to the next stop, I'm going to change my ticket. And we didn't have any more problems on the bus. I get on the bus going to the East Coast, go through Chicago, meet a young man who's from Sudan, and he's over in the United States on a visa. And he invited me because I had a 5-hour stay in Chicago. He invited me to his house to eat dinner with his family because this young man and I were sitting next to each other on the bus, and we actually had a pretty good time, good conversation. I'm mentioning this to you all because these are the things that are impactable. You see, I was told when I went to the East Coast I was to meet 45 people who didn't know who Jehovah was. I said 45 people. It said Jehovah's Witnesses are all over the East Coast. Please. They're like roaches. You can't get rid of them on the East Coast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when I went to the East Coast, the first thing I said is I wanted to stay at a homeless shelter. The reason why I wanted to stay at the homeless shelter is because there were always people holding their hands out, always asking for money on the street when I was in Los Angeles. And so I wanted to find out if these people had access to money. They always got their hands out, so something must be wrong because this is the United States. Why are people hungry in the United States? That's what I thought. That's how naive I was, ladies and gentlemen. That's how naive I was. And I literally wanted to see it for myself. So I go to North Carolina. I've been to North Carolina before, and I like North Carolina. I stayed in Richmond, Salem, and where else did I stay in North Carolina? Winston-Salem, and where is it that Tim Duncan went to school? Was it Wake Forest? Well, that was the area I stayed in. And when I went to North Carolina, I decided to go back to Charlotte because I had been to Charlotte, and I went to the homeless shelter that was near downtown. It was owned by the United Way. And I go there and I see how they're living, and I go into the kitchen and I see the mold and the mildew. And I said, oh no, God no. So I started calling the EEOC and all these organizations. They say they have no control over it. I mean, what you mean you have no control over that? I said, this is where people are eating. I used to work in restaurants. I used to work for the stupid Army Corps of Engineers. So of course I know that the EEOC and other organizations monitor stuff like this. And they said no. And I realized because it was a homeless shelter. So I contacted the Channel 9 News in Charlotte. And they came and did an interview with me. Go back 2005, you'll see the interview where they're coming in and talking about the homeless shelter. Okay, and the guy actually said to me while we're doing the interview, you mean the actual people could die? And I looked at him, yeah, they could die. Because I thought it was so stupid that he tried to dramatize the fact that there's mold and mildew. The only thing I wanted to report is this is how you're treating the homeless. And that's not right. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, the homeless eat better than you and I. They call them soup kitchens, but they're not soup. Yet they do serve soup from time to time, and some of their soup and stuff I enjoyed. Okay, especially they served pastas, and one of the pastas, I don't know what the dressing that they put on this pasta, but I enjoyed that pasta, and I was eating it like it was no tomorrow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, because they have these so-called soup kitchens for the homeless, they don't just have one, they don't just have two, they don't have three, they don't have four, they have several of them throughout the city. The people who are homeless go from one soup kitchen to the next to eat a meal. Like I said, they eat better than you and I. The only thing they have to do is get a ticket, go through line, and eat. Okay? Just that simple. That's how simple it is. Clothing? Oh no, when they go to the homeless shelter, there are several different organizations which they can go to that will give them clothing. And the Salvation Army and all that, before you go to the Salvation Army and pick out your clothes, they get the first pick of the litter. Okay? And you'll see that the homeless throw away more clothes than anyone else. If you ever see a homeless person in their basket or they're pushing a cart, look at the fact of all the clothing that they have. They're not picking that from trash cans, people. That's what I had to learn. I had to learn that they have access to shoes, they have access to food, they have access to medical. So why are they always holding their hands out for money? Some of them buy drugs. Most of the homeless shelter do checks for alcohol, they do breathalyzers and things like that, and they do have some of them taking drug tests. But ladies and gentlemen, for the simple fact, that's the homeless shelter. I pay attention, met 45 people in the state of North Carolina who did not know who Jehovah was. Why? Because when I got to New York, now that was 45 people in the homeless shelter that I met. Because what happens is I got kicked out of the homeless shelter because they found out I wasn't homeless. They said because I had a computer and a portable DVD player, and I was able to get these brand new movies that hadn't even been in the theater yet. They said that I couldn't have been homeless. And they were right. Ladies and gentlemen, they knew I wasn't homeless. They thought I was there to spy on them. And so they kicked me out of the homeless shelter. And so I went to the next homeless shelter that was in 2 cities away. I think it's called Concord, wherever it is, near Monroe. At least I think it's Monroe. Anyway, because I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been there for 12 years now, 13 years now. That's how, no, 14 years, because that was 2005. And so I hadn't been there. And then I go to New York. And New York, I'm in court dealing with them trying to say that that law applied to me, and I'm in court arguing with them about it, and they tell me to show up in court one day, and there's no court. And then they have the police arrest me, telling me that there's a warrant for North Carolina. So I'm going to North Carolina, and they're extraditing me, and they hold me for 2 weeks, and then they send me there. And they put me in a van, Wiccan Hut, or wherever the name of that stupid company is, put me in the back of the van, and they do like they do every place else. They tell them that it was the worst thing in the world, that it must have been with somebody who was like 3 years old, or probably 3 days old, or somebody, I must have held them upside down and set them on fire with gasoline. They tell them all kind of stories because for some reason they want to cause me problems in a situation like that. But the same as I've done with everybody else, go back and look at the Cleveland seminar. I tell everybody everything. I don't hold anything back. I let people know exactly what happened. I don't have a problem with that. They ask me, I tell them. Why? Because if it was the worst thing in the world, if it wasn't consensual, then people, they would have a problem with it. The first thing they did in PR is they went and got all of the paperwork. Had somebody downloading everything. I was kind of surprised at that one. Had the whole case file. Didn't care. Not a problem for me. They drove us from a place called Schenectady all the way over to Syracuse, then all the way back down to New York City, then all the way back down to North Carolina. That took, I think it was almost 7 days in a vehicle because they were going from one jail to the next. We spent the night in a jail every single night in the back of a van. The place that I hated was Philadelphia. Yeah, that's right. When they took us through New York, they went back down through Philadelphia and then all the way back down to New York City, then all the way back down to New Jersey, and so on and so forth, all the way back down to North Carolina. That's how long that trip was. 7 days in the back of a van. It was Philadelphia. The reason why Philadelphia was the worst place because their jail is so backwards, so old, and so ancient that they still have the bars that you see on Annie Griffith. And everybody there felt like that was normal. Oh well. And we get to North Carolina, and I'm put in a pod. And I'm talking to everybody, and I'm sharing scriptures with everybody, and they all know I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm showing them what the Bible says, and they're all seeing the truth, and they're all saying, but I thought that, no, see, right here, and right here, this is what it really says, as opposed to what you've been told. This is what the Bible really teaches. This is what it really says. Even Jehovah's Witnesses have a book, What the Bible Really Teaches. Because that's what we do. We show people what it actually says. Oh, you guys, you have your brainwashing. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody likes being told that they are wrong. Nobody likes being told that there's no more boogeyman, that there's no Santa Claus. Nobody likes having anybody walk up to them and snatch candy out of their hand. People, Let me explain it to you so that you get it. You've been lied to. Not that I've been lied to. I can't be lied to because I make people prove everything. You come to me telling me something, I'm going to make you prove it. That's why that judge couldn't get by with anything. Do you know how many times they had to tell me I was right? I'll explain it in a minute. I'm getting to that. While in that jail facility in North Carolina, there are 45 people in a pod. All 45 people meet in a rec yard. They're not meeting in a rec yard because they're having recreation. They're meeting in a rec yard because I'm sitting up there showing them what the Bible really says and explaining things to them, and they're all listening to me. The same as all of you sit there and you listen to me. Well, that's what I do inside facilities like that, which is what they hate. Why would they hate that? Because they don't want the so-called inmates organized. They don't want them coming together. You see, I explain to these guys exactly what's going on with the system. I explain to them exactly how the system operates, but I also explain to them what the Bible says. 45 people who didn't know God's name, who'd never seen it in the Bible, even though in the King James Version it appears 4 times, plus another 2 with Jehovah Jireh and Jehovah Nissi. But these individuals got to see God's name. Let me say 45, but one of them, he was married to a Jehovah's Witness. His daughter was a Jehovah's Witness. And he and his wife, he was just in there for a ticket or something. But I assumed, I presumed that he already knew what the scripture said, that his wife and his daughter had spoken to him. And so I go to him one day and I said, you know what? I don't know why I'm still here. And I literally tell him this. I don't know why I'm still here. I've talked to everybody in here. There's no reason for me to still be here. And then we have to lock down for their count. And after we come back out of count, I said, I know why I'm here. I said, you are the reason I'm here. I said, you are the only one that I haven't talked to because I assume because your wife is a Jehovah's Witness and your daughter's a Jehovah's Witness that you already knew. But the fact is you don't even listen to them. They try to tell you and you don't listen. I said, come here, have a seat. And we talked about scripture and I showed him what the scripture said. And he started seeing things that he hadn't seen. I said, this is what they've been trying to show you. I said, so when you take your behind back home, listen to them. And next thing you know, the officer says, Jones, roll your stuff up. You're out of here. I said, see, what did I tell you? I told you you were the reason I'm here. And ladies and gentlemen, they just released me. When I first got there, the judge says, how do you plea? I said, I don't plea nothing. He said, no, you will enter a plea in this. I said, I won't enter nothing. He says, well, the court's going to. I said, no, you don't have my permission to do that. Everybody was looking at me. They saw the judge getting upset and all that, and they saw me just talking to him like he's some child. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to court with me, you'll see that I talk to all the judges that way. Because they're no better than I am. Jehovah requires that I respect the institution. Jehovah requires that I respect every single person. So I don't curse them out. I don't call them stupid. I don't disrespect them. But when they get stupid with me, I get stupid back. I talk to them the way you hear me say I talk to them. Those of you who've been to court with me before, you know this. Those of you who've heard the audio of me being in court, you know this. If you were in court with me this week, you would have heard the same thing. Me making the judge look stupid and her telling me, you can't raise your voice at me. I said, I'm not raising anything. Well, that tone you took. I said, tone? I said, wait a minute, hold on. You asked me a question and I told you no. And then you asked me the same question again and I said no. I said, because you didn't hear me the first time, I wanted to make sure you heard me the second time. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the games we play. The officer is looking at me. He's coming and standing next to me as if he's getting ready to grab hold of me. Ladies and gentlemen, that officer was playing a game. His game is to intimidate me. My game is to say, excuse me, you are too close. Would you step back? It appears you're trying to intimidate me. That's what I should be saying to him. But I don't. I let them play their game because I already know their game. I have their playbook. So I go back to New York. Now remember, I'm gone for 45 days. Nobody's watching my apartment. But yes, you all know that normally I pay my rent in advance, but I wasn't expecting this, so I didn't pay my rent in advance this time. 45 days I am gone. Guess what? I go back, pay them the rent, and nothing. My car is still there. Oh, sorry. I should tell you the other story. I said I was supposed to end up on the East Coast, so after I talked to the first group in the homeless shelter, the 45 there, I'm supposed to talk to another 45. That was the 45 in the jail. 45 and 45, I'm not adding up 90. I don't know what it means. I just know it was supposed to be 45 people and 45 people. So I got to talk to the 45 and the 45. Are you talking about the 4,400? Shut up. Ladies and gentlemen, when I finish taking care of North Carolina, when they're getting ready to kick me out of the shelter, I tell my friend, I said, I'm supposed to go to New York because I didn't realize it when I first got to North Carolina. I didn't realize I was supposed to go to New York. I just realized I was supposed to be on the East Coast. So I thought I was going to be in North Carolina. I still couldn't figure out how I was supposed to own a farm because that's what I told my best friend. I'm supposed to end up on the East Coast and I'm supposed to own a farm. I said, all I know is I'm going to own a farm and I'm supposed to end up on the East Coast. I said, but now I know I got to get to New York and I don't know how I'm going to get there. I said, because I don't have a vehicle. It's wintertime in New York. It's too cold. I don't know how I'm going to get to New York. I can't stay in the shelter because it's too cold. And I can't handle the cold, people. So he and his name is, I call him Carlos. I called him Canferlos, but Carlos Montanez. And Carlos Montanez was 18 years old, and we kicked it. And Carlos and I are walking and talking. We're talking about scripture and we're talking about the Bible. And as we're walking, we see a guy. He's in a minivan across the street and he's trying to move the minivan, but he's stuck. He backed up over one of those little pylons that stick up out of the ground, those little posts, and he backed up the bumper over that and he's trying to get it off the bumper. And I said, all right, come on, let me go over there. I'll help him out. So I go over and I said, what's going on? He says, I'm stuck. I said, I tell you what. Put the car in park. I'm going to go to the back. I'm going to lift up on the back. Do not put it in reverse. Take it and put it in drive. And then when I say go, push the gas a little, not a lot. So he says, okay. I had to make sure he didn't back up on me, and I had to make sure he didn't pull off speeding like he needed to get to the store or something and take me with him. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. The doggy is barking. Anyway, I lift up on the back of the van. Yes, I have that type of strength, and I lifted it all the way up off the pole, probably about 9 inches. I don't know how he got that bumper over that pole that much, but he did. I lifted it all the way up off the pole. It was a Chevy Lumina, and no, not Lumina. It was the van. I forgot the name of that ugly van that they made. And I lifted it off the pole, got it off the pole, went over. I said, "There you go." He says, "Yeah. What do I owe you? You don't owe me nothing. All I did was help you get your van off the pole." He says, "Oh man, thanks." He says, "Yeah, I'm taking this to the junkyard." I said, "You're taking it to the junkyard for what?" "Yeah, I'm about to give it to him." "You're about to sell it to the junkyard. How much are you expecting to get for it?" He said, 125. I said, "What? I tell you what, I'll have 125 wired to you within the hour." I said, "So why don't you sell it to me? I'll have 125 wired to you within the hour." He said, "Sure." So he had 125 wired to him. I had a minivan. I had a way to get to New York. Just that quickly. Because I told Jehovah when the night before he told me that I needed to get to New York. I didn't know how I was going to get to New York. He told me it was an understanding, people. The other young man who I knew, his name was Jonathan Sturdivant, and he said that, well, I used to live in Schenectady. I said, Schenectady? I ain't never heard of Schenectady. I didn't know Boyz II Men's song "End of the Road" meant Schenectady, because that's what Schenectady means, end of the road. I didn't know they were from Schenectady. I had never heard of Schenectady, so I moved to Schenectady. See, I lived there in Schenectady. I lived there. So, while living in Schenectady and moving to Schenectady, I wasn't. John just mentioned Schenectady to me. I said, that's where I'm supposed to go. Why? Because I just had the understanding the night before. The very next day, I speak to John, who I'd been speaking to every day, and he said he lived in Schenectady. So I take the minivan, but right after I get the minivan, that's when the very day that I get the minivan is the day I get kicked out of the homeless shelter. Okay? So I go and stay in another homeless shelter for 2 months. And then I tell John, well, if you said you wanted to go back to Schenectady, I'm heading to Schenectady. If you want to go, let's go. And he says, all right. He says, nah, I'm not going to go. Okay, fine. I go to Schenectady. The van, this minivan, it has a couple of problems. The steering wheel needs to be repaired. No, it wasn't stolen or anything because I'd already checked to make sure it wasn't stolen. I put insurance on the minivan and ended up getting it registered in my name. Just that quick. But anyway, minivan, I drive it to Schenectady, no problems. Drove there, no problems, no issues, no nothing. But it's snowing. But it's a minivan, so I can sleep in the car until I find a place to stay. Sure enough, I found a place to stay within the week. And then after that, I found a permanent place to stay 2 weeks after that. Why am I telling you all of this? Because in 2001, I told my best friend I would end up on the East Coast. I did not know how I was going to end up on the East Coast. I leave everything behind in California, Los Angeles in 2004, and I head to the East Coast. Now remember, before I was supposed to head to the East Coast, I didn't tell you this, but in 2001, I told my other friend, his name was Larry, the basketball player I've told you all about. I said, Larry, I'm the head to the East Coast. I just know that that's where I'm going to end up being. But this is what happened to me last night. And he and I start talking about my experience of what I went through when Jehovah chose me. And while I'm talking to him, he called me Brent because he knew my name was Brent before I changed it. And he says, Brent, man, it doesn't even feel like I'm driving this car. I said, I know, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I said, no, you got to focus on the tail lights because that's the same experience I had experienced earlier that morning just getting to his house. I said, you got to focus on the tail lights. Just focus on the tail light. The brighter the tail light, the more pressure you apply to the brake. Because what you all won't get is he was experiencing the very same thing that I was experiencing at the very same time. And no, we had not been smoking. And no, we had not been doing anything. I had just met up with him because I was training him in basketball. Yeah, Larry at the time, I think he's 28 years old at that time. And he was playing overseas. But 28 years old playing overseas and had never won a championship, never been to an all-star game where he was in the all-star game, and never been the MVP. So I made him a promise. I said, I guarantee you that I can improve your shooting percentage by greater than 30%. I said, I guarantee it. And all I need is 3 weeks of your time. He said, 3 weeks? I said, yes, but the only rule is you have to do whatever I tell you to do and understand I'm not going to ask you to do anything you are not capable of doing and anything I can't do. I said, but you're going to have to do everything I tell you to do. Said, you give me your word and I guarantee you I'll improve your shooting percentage. He knew me. He was 28, but I had known him since he was 14. We went to school together and he trusted me. And so, fine. He said yes. So we would go to Beverly Hills Gym, Park and Rec Center, and we would shoot. And I taught him the mechanisms of shooting free throws. Ladies and gentlemen, when I first got Larry, he was 52% free throw shooting. Worse than Shaq. No. Shaq was 52%. He was 48%. He made 48 out of 100 the very first time around. And I just said, that's horrible. I said, you are 6'8". You are playing professional basketball and your shooting percentage is horrible. How are you still on the team? He was the captain of the team. I said, that is impossible. The first thing you must know how to do is shoot a free throw. Ladies and gentlemen, within a week, he was shooting 75%. A week and a half, he hit 98 shots out of 100. Or excuse me, 96 shots out of 100. Sorry, 96 shots out of 100. Out of 100 shots, he missed 4. I know for a fact that he broke a record, but we weren't videotaping it. He's not the only one. My other friend, Tori, shot 96 out of 100 when I was training him. He had 96 out of 100, 92 out of 100, 94 out of 100, 91 out of 100, 90 out of 100, and his average was 86 out of 100. Now we're shooting 100 free throws a day. Then we go from after a week and a half of free throws, but it's still 3 weeks, 100 free throws a day, guaranteed. 100 free throws a day without missing a beat. No, I'm saying every other day, every 3 days. Can't do it every single day. Has to do it every other day. He's consistently hitting 86% after the week and a half. 86%. If he hit 82, if he hit 80%, he's upset with himself. Okay. Free throws, three throws, 3-point shooting we worked on, and we also worked on his mid-range shooting. And then we worked on his coming to the hole. It is just something that I can do. I coached. I'm very good at it. I know I'm good at it because each one of the players I personally trained, I improved their shooting percentage by more than 50%. 50%? That's right. He was shooting 48%, people, and he ended up hitting 96 out of 100. That's not 50. That's 48%. You improved it. Ladies and gentlemen, shut up. Okay. The end of his season, he ended up making it to the All-Star game for the very first time. They won the championship. First championship in his life. And, pay attention, he gets the MVP for the team, the MVP for the All-Star game, and the MVP for the league, all in 1 year. All because somebody trained him and promised him that they could improve his shooting percentage. He told me, he says, Brent, I have this apartment building I just bought, and I don't have anybody to manage it, and I don't trust anybody else but you. He says, will you help me? I said, and this was the very next day after Jehovah chose me. I said, Jehovah told me that you would be the one that would help me. I said, so yes, I'll help you. I said, all you have to do is provide me a place to stay. And guess what he did? He provided me a place to stay. Ladies and gentlemen, everything I touched turned to gold. Nothing went wrong. That's the gentleman I said his property was worth $179,000 and he sold it. Now he didn't pay $179,000 for the property. He paid $20,000 for the property. That's right. He bought it from somebody because they did one of those stupid what do you call those loans? Where it's like a loan shark loans you money and it's a short-term loan, but the interest rate is so high you'll never pay it off. Yeah, that's what they did. I didn't know that that's what they were doing. I found that out later. The woman whom they did this to, she was a crack addict. She was getting ready to lose the property, and they came in and did that to her and took her property from her. So now I'm managing that property. Because she was a crack addict, literally back then I said, hey, she wasn't going to keep it. She didn't deserve it, blah, blah, blah. And she made the deal. I wasn't there to talk her into the deal. I had nothing to do with the deal. He had already had the property. He had bought another property the same way, but this person he bought the property from was a Jehovah's Witness. And that bothered me greatly. So I said to myself, I will help with both properties because I will look after the woman's interests. Yes, I dislike him to this very day because of what he had me do to that woman because I worked for him, so I had to do what he said because that was our contract, that was our agreement. With the management part of it, I had control. With the rehabbing of the property, I had control. But with the actual ownership and everything, he had control. Well, we took his property that was worth $179,000, and he sold that property for $561,000. It was never worth $561,000. He got his 561,000. Of that, he had 350,000 left over after all the bills were paid. 350,000, we spent 100,000, so he made literally 200,000 off, well, 250. He made $250,000 off the property. My thing to him was, if I make this property worth $200,000 more than it is worth now, not that if I brought him $200,000 in full profit, just that if I made the property worth more than $200,000 and it was worth at that time, all he had to pay me was $50,000 and I'd be on my way. I'll go do my own thing. So we found this Blimpies restaurant that was right next to a Kaiser Permanente hospital. And so I told him, I said, that's what I want. Then all they wanted was $50,000 for somebody to come and take over the Blimpies restaurant right next to a Kaiser Permanente. I said, I can work that. I can make that work because that's what I did. That's what I was good at. And I'd be the owner of the restaurant. It would be mine. Well, dagnabbit, when it was time for him to pay me the $50,000, he says, oh, come on, let me run it with you. I said, Larry, I want to do this by myself. I want this to be mine. I want to do something for me because I'd always done everything for everybody else. So I wanted something of my own. He got mad. He gave me $3,400 and told me to have a Coke and a smile. He sent me on my merry little way. Told me that was it. Told me to get out. Gotta go, gotta go. So I found myself an apartment, the same one I gave to my friends, and I moved in. Like I said, everything started going wrong because it was time for me to leave. But I did everything in my power not to leave. Everything in my power not to leave. Had to go. So I go to the East Coast. After reminding my friend, I told you I'd have to go to the East Coast. I said, you see, everything is going wrong. You see how many things are going wrong and how many things have been going wrong the whole year. Everything has been going wrong. I said, I gotta go. I've been trying to stay and it's just not working. Well, that friend got mad at me and we're not friends to this day. He stopped being my friend because I left. A lot of people don't like me because I leave. I keep telling them, hey, people, we have telephones these days. We have cell phones. We have video phones. You don't need a person's physical presence in order to recognize they still exist. But many of my friends hate it when I leave because apparently my leaving means that I'm going to give somebody else all of my attention. And they don't realize how difficult it is for me to leave. So I lost that friend. But I didn't lose him right away. I was still communicating with him every day, talking. It's my friend. Moved to New York, and I told you I was going to end up on the East Coast. Well, I stayed in New York for 4.5 years, from 2005 to 2008. In 2008, I got a settlement from Burger King, being a manager for Burger King, and they gave me a settlement, and I took that $90,000 settlement, which was supposed to be $300,000, but the courts decided they wanted to mess things up. The God that I served told me to let that one go, so I had to let it go. I could have gotten my $300,000. It would have been simple because we had a contract. But the God that I served gave me an understanding to let that one go. What was I going to do? Disobey him? I'd already tried that, people. Disobeyed him in the past, and look what it got me. So no, I'm not doing that no more. So I take the $92,000. I buy a used RV, 40 feet long RV. And I mean, this was an RV. This wasn't one of those little rinky-dink RVs. This was an RV. Went and had a custom trailer for my Cadillac SLS. That's right, black man with a Cadillac. Sorry, people. The people who tell you about Cadillacs, they're telling you the truth. It is the smoothest riding vehicle I've ever been in, is a Cadillac. Every Cadillac, that air ride that Cadillacs have, It is that comfortable when you hit those little bumps and that car, but just rolls with, man. Anyway, and those of you who've had one know what I'm talking about. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Had a custom trailer made for my Cadillac to be placed on that trailer. And when I said a trailer, I did not have a tow dolly. I had a full trailer for my Cadillac to fit on. I had all of the undercarriage for all the storage in the world. So basically, it was a one bedroom apartment on wheels. And I bought property in New Mexico, 3 acres of land. And while I have my property in New Mexico, 3 acres of land, I'm planning on building on the property. So right now I'm just in the RV for about 6 months. And then the RV catches on fire, and the RV is worth $30,000. I bought the RV for 12,000, or probably less, 10,000. I bought the RV for right about 10,000, but it's worth $30,000. So when it burns up, RVs catch fire all the time, people, for some dumb reason. When the RV burns up, it burns up all of my stuff, all of my clothing, everything, generator, everything. But I get the $30,000. I take the $30,000 and I start building a home with $30,000. It's New Mexico, so I'm out in the middle of the county area, so there are very little regulations. I buy those carports. You know, it's actually the company was actually called Carport, but I buy the carport. They come to install the carport, but I'm waiting for them to show up and they don't show up. I'm waiting all day and they don't show up. And then 3 weeks go by and they still don't show up to install my carport, which I've sent them the money and paid for. All right. So then one day they show up for the carport and they install the carport. And then the next week they show up to install the carport. And I tell them where to install the carport. And then I order another carport and I write them pay attention, a closed checking account check for the carport. I want you to pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, so that you get this. I was doing closed checking account checks before there was anybody telling me that I could do a closed checking account check. I got 3 carports for the price of one, and the other 2 carports, I had them extended to where they were 20 feet high. You've seen the carports for RVs. I had 2 of those. So in between the 2 20-feet carports, I took and I built a structure. Walls, roof. I built a house in between to where the total size of my house was 4,000 square feet. That's the property in New Mexico. It's just, that's when the muscular dystrophy started to really kick in. Again, I had just discovered in 2008 when I moved to New Mexico that I had muscular dystrophy. This was after the RV, no, before the RV burnt up. I discovered I had muscular dystrophy. It was in 2008 that I finally ended up getting Social Security because of the muscular dystrophy. Now, I've been going my whole life without knowing I had muscular dystrophy. Knew something was wrong, but did not know it was muscular dystrophy until it was diagnosed by the muscular dystrophy specialist for the entire state of New Mexico. That's who they sent me to. Long story, ladies and gentlemen, because I figured you all needed to know whom you were dealing with. While in New Mexico, I ended up buying 3 llamas. I have a Pyrenean mountain dog. She was called Ezra. My llamas were Faith, Joy, and Love. Joy was the mother, Faith was the father, and Love was the little boy. Those were my 3 llamas. And llamas, wonderful animals. Docile, gentle, scary, extremely scary, but wonderful animals. Joy used to come to me all the time. Faith, yeah, she was a anyway, and Love, I mean Faith was the male. Um, Love the female. She was a bi, but Faith, he was just ornery. He wasn't mean. He just was stubborn after my own heart. Those were my 3 llamas, my Pyrenean mountain dog, And I had another dog. It was a boxer. Called him Rentaru. My friend, who I told you we're not friends anymore, he, I asked him for a name because I just bought the dog, a boxer purebred, and I told him I need a name for the dog. He says, "How about Rentaru?" Because he used to watch a lot of anime. So I said, "Rentaru? Okay, that's it. The dog's name is Rentaru." So Rentaru was the boxer. Pretty nice little girl. I mean, she's a boxer, pretty nice girl, not mean, but she was mean to the cows that were in the neighborhood. Um, then I had Freedom. Freedom was I loved Freedom. Freedom was my dog. Freedom was an Alaskan Eskimo, pure white. I bought Freedom when he was a pup. When I bought Freedom, I went to the pet store. I just got my settlement and I wanted a dog. And I said, if I'm going to Mexico, I want to go there with a dog and I want to buy my own dog. I want a purebred. And I was going to the pet store and I saw the other dogs, saw the other ugly dogs to me. And Freedom was just laying there, just staring at me, not looking at anybody else, just staring directly at me. And I said, that one right there, that's the one I want. $2,000. Gave him the $2,000, took the dog in my arms, and I'm walking out of the mall with the dog. And the security officer sees me walking to the door and she says, "Let me get that door for you." And he's trying to get out of my hand. And she says, "Oh, looks like he wants his Freedom. What's his name?" Oh no, she didn't say that. I said, "Oops, looks like he wants his Freedom." "Oh, is that his name?" And I looked at her and I said, "Yeah, Freedom." And the dog's name was Freedom. Freedom was my most favorite dog out of all the dogs I've ever had. Freedom was my buddy. And so I had myself getting up every morning at 6 a.m. to put water in the containers for the llamas, putting water in a container for the dogs, and feeding the llamas with their hay. And after about 6 weeks of doing that, I called my friend Tori and I said, "Give me a second." He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just finishing up feeding the llamas and watering the animals." And I said, "Tori, remember when I told you that I was going to move to the East Coast and I was going to have a farm and I didn't know how I was going to end up having a farm when I didn't even own any land?" I said, "Tori, I got 3 acres of land and I'm getting up every morning to water the animals." I said, "I got a farm." So, ladies and gentlemen, that's me letting you know that if I could make this stuff up, it wouldn't have taken this long. When people make up stories, they don't give you all this bull crap. They're called understandings. My God allows me to know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. That's why I told you guys eventually they were going to come for me. Because I already know that I'm going to spend a short stint in somebody's jail. Now, my thing is every time you put me in jail, I'm going to make it worth my while. I'm going to cause you more problems than you could ever cause me. When I was in Puerto Rico, what happened is they had 3 solid months where they could not conduct any court. The reason why they had 3 solid months where they couldn't conduct any court, they had to continue everything, is because they had those stupid affidavits in front of them and they didn't know how to respond to them. That was the exact response that came from the Attorney General, well, the Deputy Attorney General for the island of Puerto Rico. Because everybody in the pods were doing affidavits. I was having affidavits sent by Francis. Francis did the affidavits, made copies, sent it to me in blank, and we just added people's names. Thank you, Francis. Francis was my life jacket because she helped type up documents. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be typing up my appeal document tomorrow. What appeal document? Oh, didn't I tell you? That's the reason for this video. The understanding on Thursday was, shut up. That was the understanding. Remember, we're not supposed to rehearse what we're going to say. Remember Jesus, Pilate said, "Do you not know that I have authority to impel you and authority to release you?" Because he asked him, he says, "Are you not speaking to me?" And then he says, "Do you not know that I have the authority?" And what did Jesus say? "You would have no authority at all if it had not been granted you from above." Ladies and gentlemen, this court has no authority over me. It can't happen unless Jehovah allows it to happen. But see, I already knew this was going to happen. I've known for years this was going to happen. This is not something that is new to me. I didn't find out about this yesterday. It's not a surprise to me. And I had to realize I kept seeing them do everything wrong. And I watched them do everything wrong, and I kept catching them in a lie. And I have a judge who has lied on the public record. I know she's lied on the public record. She knows she's lied on the public record. Okay? These things, we both know she can't get away from it. She can't get around it. So guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I've already told everybody and their grandmama, I'm not trying to get out of this. This is for my protection. They're going to railroad me like they did in PR. Again, for my protection, not for yours. Don't worry about me, Argentina. Oh, because Lord knows I wouldn't want nothing that happens to my Robin. Remember, we started this video out with Robin Harris talking about somebody telling him, "I wouldn't want nothing that happens to my Robin, so you be careful." Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, this is being done for my benefit. Why? Truthfully, so let me get back to the computer so I can stop walking in circles explaining to you about the past. Those of you who stayed this long, you're the only ones who will benefit. So let me show you what the situation is. And it's not this right here. Oh, that's because it started over anew. Let's take you to the actual verse in Scripture. It's going to be the book of Matthew, and it's going to be the 24th chapter. Now, the reason why this is important, the reason why you got to pay attention, that's 24. 24. Okay, we're going to go to the 24th chapter, and we're going to go to 23. 23. 23. No, this is not the one. Oh, it's 22. In fact, unless those days, the days we're living in, this is called the last days. Uh-oh, get out of here. There's the last of the last days. So these are the final part of the days. Unless those days were cut short. So if they weren't cut short, pay attention, everyone. It says, get out of here. It's my mouse. I keep hitting the wrong spot on the mouse. Unless those days were cut short, no flesh, including animals, would be saved. Now, what's he talking about? Well, he's talking about, for then there will be great tribulation, meaning great, great trouble, because tribulation means great trouble. Okay? Go look up the definition. It means great trouble. So putting the word great in front of tribulation means great, great trouble. Such as has not occurred since the world's beginning until now, no, nor will occur again. Okay, so this is the only time this will ever happen is now. Hasn't happened yet. We haven't hit that point yet, but we're on our way. It says, in fact, unless those days, the days of the tribulation, were cut short, no flesh would be saved. No flesh, not even animals. Well, aren't they talking about the extinction of mankind, you know? If the world keeps going on like this, that will be ending of all life and then blah, blah. No, that's not what it means by no flesh would be saved. It says the event known as the Great Tribulation, when it occurs, it will lead to a point where it looked like nobody would survive. Okay? But Jesus said, but on account of the chosen ones, another word for chosen ones is holy ones. Another word for holy ones is saints. Another word for saints is elite. You'll see it in different versions of the Bible, and in Revelation they're referred to as the elect, the saints, the holy ones. Especially in the 20th chapter, they're referred to as holy ones. It says, but on account of these chosen ones, Those days will be cut short. Why? Because they are special to Jehovah. He says touching them is like touching his eyeball. Hold on. I think I think it is that, but I don't know if it's spelled that way or not. But we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, and Zechariah. Now I want you to pay attention so that you'll understand what I'm talking about. Hey there, Zion, make your escape, who are dwelling with the daughter of Babylon. For this is what Jehovah of armies has said. Following after the glory, he has sent me to the nations that were despoiling you people, for he that is touching you is touching my eyeball. Who are these yous? For here I am waving my hand against them, and they will have to become spoil to their slaves. And you people will certainly know that Jehovah of armies himself have sent me. Ladies and gentlemen, Jehovah says those who are touching his servants are as if they are touching his eyeball. Have you ever had somebody touch your eyeball? Go ahead, try to touch your own eyeball and see how irritating that is. Okay? Go ahead and see if you can touch your own eyeball and see if that's not irritating. Okay, the Bible makes it quite clear that he will not allow anyone to harm his chosen ones. That even if they do cause them harm, he will make sure that that party that caused them harm pays the price for that causing of harm. So, ladies and gentlemen, the focus is here. No flesh would be saved. As I told you, I hate death. There are 8 billion people. I don't care if they say it's 7 point this, 7 point that. No, there are 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion. No flesh would be saved means billions of people will die, will perish. How do you get rid of billions of people? Hold on. Not there. Robin. This is the Robin Harris video where the stand-up Robin Harris. Look, Robin Harris did this video, and you see it has 1.3 million views. Robin Harris did this video originally with HBO when they were still on Select TV, all of that junk. Robin Harris did this video, and everybody knew that he was the next up and coming, and next thing you know, he dies. And I don't believe that was a coincidence. Now, I'm going to type in something, okay? Depopulation. So we're going to talk about depopulation 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, why is depopulation a key issue in the Spanish election? Ladies and gentlemen, this is all they're talking about. See, depopulation agenda. How are they going to take care of depopulating the world? Now, I don't care about these YouTube videos. Oh, no, no, no. You just got to go and read Agenda 21. Okay? Oh, look at that. Virus is expected to be released in 2020. Depopulation is an Agenda 21 issue. Okay? And that's what they're getting ready to do. You hear people talking about it, but this video right here 2 weeks ago, all I can tell you is the easiest way for them to depopulate the world, kill billions of people, pay attention, kill billions of people, is through disease, where they create the disease. Okay? The biggest and quickest way for them to get rid of people is by disease. But if you give people disease and you bury them, then that will infect the water and that will keep that disease circulating. But what if the disease has a lifespan? What if they genetically alter, genetically create, and what if they have a trigger for stopping the disease? A lot of you are not going to pay attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't create these videos. I just know as of 2013, that's what I was shown. That right after I'm released, a lot of wonderful, wonderful people are gone. and that there is a pandemic. And I knew that it would get its start in 2013. Didn't know how many years we had or anything. Right now, it's been 6 years. Pay attention, people. Watch this. I'm going to do this. EBOL. Uh-oh, that's an A is what I want. I just typed in depopulation and Ebola. The DRC latest Ebola outbreak is more worrisome than the last. This was a month ago. The latest outbreak is more worrisome than the last outbreak. 750 dead, 1,200 cases 2 weeks ago. The World Health Organization. Ladies and gentlemen, Congo struggles to contain and treat Ebola. But I thought they had a vaccine that they were pumping these peoples full of. If you haven't been paying attention to Ebola, you need to start paying attention to Ebola. Pay attention. Eastern parts of the Democratic Republic of Congo are suffering the second worst outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus. Eastern parts. Why the Congo? Because they claim it's a war-torn area. That's why the Congo. And they say 100 children dead from Ebola. It's more than 100 people. It's more than 100. Now, I like the fact they say about eugenics. That's, yeah, the E is silent. Eugenics. Eugenics. Okay? Pay attention, all of you. They're not giving us the correct numbers on Ebola. You need to understand. They just talked about the original area where it started, where they thought it had died off. They just talked about the fact that it hasn't died off. By the way, with Ebola, you can't bury the bodies, but they've been burying the bodies. There's this thing called the water table. It lies basically anywhere from 4 to 7 feet below the soil, depending on where you are, sea level, above sea level, or below sea level. That water table, ladies and gentlemen, is where everything seeps back in, but that's the above ground. So if you have something that's growing, plants, vegetation, or whatever, that's where it's getting its water from. So that comes back into the food system. But they know this. That's why if you pay attention, see that fire? That's why you need to pay attention. Because it's supposed to be cremation. It's not supposed to be burial. But a lot of the people in Africa ain't gonna go for no cremation.
A dramatic rise in the number of Ebola fatalities in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The disease has killed 100 people in less than 3 weeks, according to the latest daily count published by Kinshasa's.
Wait a minute. 100 people in less than 3 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, they know that it's more than that.
Ministry of Health on Friday.
They know that it's a lot more than 100 people in 3 weeks. I told you, every person that Ebola infects, 7 other people are likely suspects of being infected with Ebola. They are lying to us. But let's continue.
Since the outbreak was declared on August 1st, the total number of deaths has reached more than 700. The World Health Organization has said the disease is spreading faster than ever. Some 95,000 people have been vaccinated against it in the DRC. The Congolese Ministry of Health believes that the campaign has saved lives. This is the 10th outbreak of the hemorrhagic fever on Congolese soil since 1976 and the second biggest in the history of the disease after the one that killed more than 10,000 people in Guinea.
Ladies and gentlemen, you see this mattress? Let's go back just a second. No, not that second. Let's go back to that second. See that right there? Now, how in the world you're going to put somebody on this mattress that has Ebola and then think you're going to spray it down with this junk right here and think that's going to keep the disease from infecting this mattress? Lord have mercy. Okay, let's let him finish with his Ebola walking.
In 2014, the United Nations has blamed community resistance and militia violence for worsening the disease.
Okay, well, at least he's throwing it away. At least they showed him throwing it away. That would have been interesting if for anything else. Let's go back. Let's escape. Uh-oh. I'm listening to that Sierra, whatever her name is, asking me what do I want to play. Did I say anything about playing anything? Oh, she must have heard me say go back. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, now this was 2 weeks ago. Let's see if we can find something within a week. Now, if Ebola is not a disease that they've created, that they put out there, that they know what they're doing, that they're allowing this to grow, if now see this one says depopulation, Armageddon virus is expected to be released in 2020. Trump knows it. How does he know it? How does Trump know it? Okay, roughly 300 dead as DRC continues. That was 4 months ago. Pay attention. Almost 300 dead, and now more than 700 dead in 4 months. Okay, that's 400, so that's 100 a month. Okay, on average. That's not right. Something's wrong with the numbers. They're not giving us the correct numbers. As I said, what was happening is that they originally gave us numbers saying that the disease was eradicated in the place where it was originally started in March of last year, only to find out, oops, my bad. It turns out it's still raging out of control in the area where it originally started, and we didn't report on this, but now we got no choice. So, ladies and gentlemen, hey, Alex, population control, Ebola virus, Agenda 21. Nice to see you, Alex. Haven't seen Alex in a while, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, at first I was thinking Alex was part of the system, because he was always shouting and telling people to get guns, and I really didn't appreciate that because I thought that he was, whew, I thought that he was really setting people up to be harmed by the system, telling people to get their guns. Ladies and gentlemen, you get your guns, they get their missiles. They get their wonderful little drones to blow things up. This country will become just like one of those other countries you all will see. Don't take my word for it. Look, this is what I'm going to open this one up because this is what I'm interested in. Okay? Then I'm going to explain to you something and then you'll understand where all of this is coming from.
The Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of
Uh-oh.
Congo is
Hold on.
spreading at its fastest rate yet. This according to the World Health Organization. Hundreds of people have died and several others have been infected. To tell us more about this, we are joined by Anastasia Tudieshe, our Voice of America correspondent. Anastasia, I remember not too long ago, ahead of the elections in the DRC, there was an issue of Ebola, and it has gotten worse since then.
Everyone.
How severe is it?
Let me do this again, because that doesn't sound right, because the last one was a lot louder than that, and I want to be able to hear what he's saying. So let's see if this audio is better, and it could be...
The Ebola outbreak in the
Democratic
Republic of Congo is spreading at its fastest rate yet. This according to the World Health Organization. Hundreds of people have died and several others have been infected. To tell us more about this, we are joined by Anastasia Tudieshe, our Voice of America correspondent. Anastasia, I remember not too long ago, ahead of the elections in the DRC, there was an issue of Ebola, and it has gotten worse since then. How severe is it?
Anastasia, speak up.
Good evening. So I didn't get your question, but I'm guessing, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Anastasia. I was asking okay, how severe the cholera, or rather...
He said cholera. It ain't cholera.
The Ebola outbreak is in the DRC.
I didn't get the question. Can you please repeat it? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I think we've got a connection issue, but just stay with us and share with us the situation in the DRC with regards to Ebola.
So the number of cases spiked. You mentioned it very quickly, and I can see three main reasons to that. I will start with the fact that in the past 2 months, 5 Ebola centers have been attacked, either by armed militiamen or by unknown arms. which
You got to be kidding me, Anastasia. You're saying that the reason why Ebola is spiking is because the Americans are paying people to attack the Ebola treatment centers? Yes, you think if you think that the so-called rebels are attacking the Ebola treatment centers, then you got problems. Okay, this is what the Americans have done time and time again, paid people to do stupid things, and the stupid people will do the stupid things, not caring what happens because they got paid. Hold on.
led French medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières to suspend its activities in two of the most affected areas, namely Katwa and Butembo, almost 2,000 miles east of Kinshasa. Second reason.
I am glad to see that, everybody. Now, see, if they have to burn the mattresses and they're burning the mattress, why aren't they cremating the bodies to stop the spread? Everybody knows what a deadly disease like Ebola or the Black Plague, you do not bury the bodies. You do not put them in the ground. But this is what they're doing.
Why these cases spiked so quickly, the mistrust of first responders that can be considered a major hindrance in what was just recently presented as a success. WHO announced only 3 weeks ago that the outbreak of the hemorrhagic fever was largely contained and could be stopped by September. While some locals seem to not believe the disease is real, some tie its occurrence and widespread to supernatural beliefs. So that's not really helpful prevention-wise. And third point, and maybe the scariest part, more than half of the Ebola deaths last week occurred outside of treatment centers, according to Congo Health Ministry data.
Hold on. Everyone, let's do something here. Let's analyze what's been said and what's going on. According to them, the people don't believe that Ebola is real. So the 20-some thousand, 28,000 infected and 11,000 deaths in 2014 and 2016 was a fallacy. Yeah, right. Too many families were affected. Too many people who had Ebola still affected. Now, I know they think it might be a Western thing, but we are not hearing the people say this. We're hearing the people reporting this. And so every time we're hearing something like that, you got to analyze it. You can't just take their word for it, saying the people don't believe the virus to be real. That's a lie. It sounds like a lie. It looks like a lie, walks like a duck, talks like a duck. Then they say that the people that were infected and died outside the treatment centers. The reason why they died outside the treatment centers is because they are not treating it. Well, they're treating it as if they want it to spread. That's why they're not taking care of it. That's why they are closing the treatment centers. That's why they're attacking the treatment centers, because they want the disease to spread. It will spread to neighboring countries. They will make it, they will pretend, they will say that they're trying to contain it, and watch Ebola morph with another virus and watch it get out of control. Now, I can't tell you that it's going to be Ebola because that's not been the understanding. The understanding is just that there's going to be a pandemic. I don't know if it's going to be Ebola, but I have a very big feeling it's going to be Ebola because I've been talking about Ebola since before it started. See, I had the understanding in July, I believe it was July 7th of 2013. December 13th of 2013 is when the little boy got Ebola. And they claim he got bitten by a bat or something. That's how he contracted Ebola. Yeah, right. But anyway, the little boy died. And then in 2014, when they had almost 500 deaths, all of a sudden, the UN wanted to be worried. Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. It's 2019. There are over 700 deaths. And the UN says it's not worried. Why? Because the first one was a trial run. This one is not the trial. That's why it's lasted almost as long as the other one. See, we're going into a year and 2 months now. We shouldn't be a year and 2 months. And the last one, when they were only December, January, February, March, April, May, June, 7 months. They had already had well over 500 deaths in 7 months. This one, they only claim they only have 700 deaths in 10 months. Pay attention, everybody. Something is wrong. They're not giving us the numbers correctly. Ebola doesn't spread in trickles. Those people, pay attention, people, they said died outside of the treatment centers. If they died outside of the treatment centers, where are all those other people who contracted the disease that was helping those people who died outside of the treatment centers who weren't quarantined? Shh!
Meaning there is a much greater chance they transmitted the virus to those around them. So
didn't she just say the same thing? There's a much greater chance that they transmitted the virus to those around them. Then how come more people aren't dead? Because they're not reporting the numbers to us. We only get the news that they give us. We don't get the actual news from the area. Hold on.
More and more people are becoming infected with less and less access to response measures.
It sounds, Anastasia, in listening to those three factors that you've mentioned, that there might be a relationship between a lack of response to the first responders because of these supernatural and other beliefs that people might have.
Did you see that? They're blaming it on the ignorant bush people because they're so stupid. Okay? Something ain't right, y'all. Something ain't right. Okay.
Which then leads to the spreading of the disease itself.
So would you like me to, it's breaking up. So I heard that you were insisting on the first responders' attitude, but that's not the only reason. We also need to keep in mind that we are talking about a troubled area and centers are being attacked, which doesn't help.
All right. I think we are going to have a bit of a challenge with the connection there, but I'm glad that we were able to speak to you and at least get those three key factors that you have listed as being a contributor to the increase in cases of Ebola in the DRC. We appreciate your time. Voice of America correspondent Anastasia Tudieshe joining us there in trying very hard to understand why we are seeing that increase in Ebola. And she mentioned three very important issues there. We do have Ebola treatment centers being attacked. And then there's also this attitude that people have towards first responders, people who are coming for the first time in trying to curb the spread of Ebola. And people have attitudes towards them because of many different beliefs that they do have. And these are just some of the issues that we are faced with. And it's unfortunate that we had that connection issue with Anastasia and we're not able to get in depth into that issue. But we'll continue to track what's happening in the DRC.
Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And it's always going to be, and there's nothing you can do about it, there's nothing I can do about it. It's always going to be that the people in Africa are backwards, ignorant, stupid. They don't know what they're doing because they believe in these superstitions and all of that. They're always going to use that as an excuse. If you would only find out that the people in Africa are not stupid, they're not dumb, they're not ignorant. We consider them to be ignorant because just like when they originally went over to Africa and took the so-called slaves, did they not say that they were uncivilized? Tell me, did they not call them uncivilized? Said that these bush people were stupid, didn't know what they were doing. Interesting, ain't it? So right now they're saying the same thing, just in different words, that they are stupid, that they don't know what they're talking about, that because of their beliefs, this is the reason why they're having problems. This is what they do, ladies and gentlemen. And so we believe it because we think that we're modernized in our society, we know more than they do, and we have more technology than they do. It has nothing to do with technology. People, they have the same brain as you have. They're able to think the same as you're able to think. They're able to rationalize and realize the same as you are. There are more people in Africa than there could ever be in the United States. There are more people in Africa than there could ever be in North America. There are more people in Africa than combined in North America and South America. Those people are not stupid. We often look at them because we are often shown on TV that they're often walking around with pitchforks and spears and all of that and chucking. Woodchuckers is what they, spear chuckers is what they called them, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, because that is the ignorance for which we exist. That's the ignorance and the lie for which it is told. And that is not the case. You're going to have to educate yourself. You're going to have to stop listening to the news. You're going to have to stop listening to these stupid YouTube videos thinking that they're going to educate you. I'm going to go ahead and end this because we've been talking for 2 hours. Well, I've been talking to you for 2 hours and 10 minutes. When you start to see people dying, and you will, I can't tell you what to do because I'm prohibited. Yes, I already have the solution, but I can't tell you. I wish I could, but I cannot tell you what to do at this time. What I'm going to tell you, and you need to listen, if you survive, there's going to come a time when I'll be back doing videos again. And I'm going to wait for a while because I'm going to do a walkabout. That's right, I'm going to do a walkabout. Because I'm going to want to travel and I'm going to want to see and I'm going to want to watch things as it takes place and unfold. When I do that walkabout, those of you who have your affidavits, you just need to pay attention to that last video showing you how to get your redress. Okay? Pay attention to your affidavit. You get to go to the arbitrator twice. Pay attention to your affidavit. You get to go to the arbitrator twice. The arbitrator will do the second part of the affidavit. The first part of the affidavit is monetary. The second part of the affidavit is equity. Okay? Is your equitable remedy. The arbitration organization, hold on. The arbitration organization is setting up to do the equitable arbitrations very shortly. You will hear about it from SAA. I've already been talking with them about it. They were aware of it. They know many of you were aware that you had two separate arbitrations that go with each arbitration agreement, equity and monetary. We will talk about it, okay? Everybody, have a good day, have a good night, have a good life, have a goodbye.